Hello and welcome to Host Planet Bitesize, the podcast brought to you by Host Planet and Hostfully. My name's James Varley, the founder of Host Planet, and our goal is to share everything you need to know about buying and managing short-term rentals. Today's guest is Gil Chan from Crafted Stays, and he'll be sharing 5 ways to convert lookers into bookers on your direct booking website. Okay, real talk now for all you hosts out there. You know that moment when your guest messages you again with, "Hey, what's the Wi-Fi code?" Or you're staring at 5 different calendars, wondering if you've accidentally double booked the cottage. Yes, we've all been there. That's why here at Host Planet, we recommend Hostfully. It's basically your rentals control center. It handles bookings across all the big platforms, syncs your calendars to ensure there are no double bookings, automates guest messages, and even creates these really slick digital guidebooks that stop all the repeat questions. Honestly, it just makes your life easier and keeps your guests happier, helping you achieve those all-important 5-star reviews. And here is a little bonus. If you're a Host Planet listener, you can get $500 off onboarding for Hostfully's property management software and 30% off digital guidebooks for life. Just hit the link in the show notes and use the codes PLANET500 for the PMS and Host Planet GB for the guidebooks. And if you'd like a proper walkthrough, there's also a link to book a demo with Frank Bosey from Hostfully. He will show you how it all works. Less stress, more bookings, sorted with Hostfully. Gil, thank you for joining us on Host Planet Bitesize. Special episode this one. You've got 6 tips to share. Usually we share 5, but you've got a special direct formula. So 6 tips to share on converting guests through your direct booking website. So take it away with tip number 1.
Yeah, I think the first one is discoverability. You want to make sure that guests can find you. And what that means is there's many ways they can find you. They can find you on social media. They can find you through organic search. Whatever that method is, make sure that you're well optimized on that one. On the SEO side, on the organic front of it, you want to make sure that they are on Google, you're on Google Search Console. Because if you're not on Google Search Console, folks will not find you. You won't be listed on Google. You want to make sure you have proper site maps so that Google knows how to scrape your web page and pull all the relevant information. You want to make sure that all the pages are indexed properly. And if you're on the social media front, there's many different ways of doing it. You can grow your own following. You can work with influencers. If you're starting just out in the first place, you want to make sure that you're filming the entire process of your entire build out. People love that transformational story. So the first tip is really making sure that you're discoverable in whatever channel you focus on. And if you are focusing on it, make sure you're diving all the way deep in there.
Your short-term rental business is evolving fast, but how do you keep up with the latest regulation, tax changes, and industry trends? The answer is to attend the Host Planet Roadshow, which is coming to a city near you in 2026. This is the UK's premier event for holiday let professionals, supported by the Short-Term Accommodation Association, Price Labs, and the Women in Short-Term Rentals community. This is your essential opportunity for learning, networking, and expert insight. Starting in Cornwall on the 5th of February, you'll spend a full day mastering compliance, optimizing your revenue strategies, and sharing lessons learned with your peers. After Cornwall, we'll be in Portsmouth on the 4th of March and London on the 23rd of April. That's the day after the Short Stay Summit. Later in the year, we'll be heading to Nottingham, Bath, Chester, and Edinburgh. So don't navigate the complex 2026 market alone. Learn from the leaders driving the industry forward and shape the short-term rental conversation in your market. Tickets are just £40 each and available now from our website. Head to houseplanet.club for further details. How does AI and the large language models start to muddy the water here?
Yeah, I mean, the weird thing is that large language models, they still use the backbones of search behind the scenes. So OpenAI is still using Bing. Gemini is still using Google behind the scenes. So they're still using a lot of the same fundamentals. The way that they want the information might be a little different. But if you're not on Search Console, if you're not on Bing Webmasters, they're not going to fail to find you in the first place. LLMs, they tend to like listicles. They tend to like shorter paragraphs. They like things very punctuated. So you want to make sure that you kind of tighten things down a little bit if you're trying to appear more in LLMs. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're registered. You want to make sure that you're driving content, that you're building content that resonates with your audience there. If you miss that, you won't come on search on Google. You won't come up in search in LLMs. It doesn't really matter there. So you want to make sure that you're building content that is tailored for your specific niche.
Yeah. Target your content at your guests. Quality content is going to shine. Discoverability then is tip number one. What's tip number two?
Integration. You want to make sure that your website is deeply integrated back into your PMS. When Crafted Stays first started off, we weren't like that. You had to manually create your properties in there, manually update them. We used widgets all over the place for search and for bookings. And we found that over time that eroded our ability to really maximize conversion. So we spent a lot of time at Crafted Stays to make sure that we're tightly integrated back into your PMS. So if you make a change for your property descriptions or your pictures or your amenities, you added new things in there, you make that change in your PMS, your website should immediately reflect that result. Your reviews should automatically pull in. You're not using some sort of widgets to pull that in there. It should be natively integrated back into your PMS. Your rates, your availabilities should always come from the PMS. When you're integrating with the PMS, you want to try to avoid using their widgets. There's many reasons for that. One of the primary reasons is for mobile. Those widgets were not adapted for desktops and mobiles, so we go through the process of really integrating with their APIs so that we can change the layouts, we can change the navigation, we can change the entire booking flow based on what screen size they might be going on. So you want to make sure that as you're building out your direct booking engine, your website, that you have a really tight integration back with your PMS.
Makes a lot of sense. Discoverability, integration. Tip number three?
Relatability. This is where a lot of people get choked up. They end up creating a website that looks really beautiful. They have really nice images, but when you land on it, it has very generic copy there. And that really can deter someone from booking with you. A lot of times people are booking with you because they're following a story. They found you through somewhere. You want to make sure that that thread is being pulled in. Maybe if you are really targeting them really well on your Instagram page, you know what their pain points are, you know what they're looking for. You want to make sure your website does the same. And if you don't know who your ideal guest avatar is, an easy thing to do is do a big dump of all your reviews, bring it into whatever AI tool you want to do. They can sift through that. They can start to pull out certain threads. They can be, we enjoy this place with the grandparents and the grandkids. You can then understand who's actually visiting your place and how you need to massage your messaging on your homepage. But make sure that even if you're using a template or using some agency, whoever's building out your website, you don't want them to just create it out of the blue. You want to give them a lot of guidance on how to create your website and really resonates with your ideal guest avatar.
How important is it to have a high level of consistency between all your channels so that, your social media channels look similar to your website, so your potential guest can see that this is the same thing and it makes sense? They like what they see on social media, they like what they see on the website.
I don't think the branding from like a color palette perspective matters all that much, especially from Instagram all the way to your homepage, because, for instance, a lot of our higher volume direct booking drivers, some of our customers, they may be working with influencers, and influencers will have their own styles and their own representations of things. What doesn't change is the audience that you're trying to go after and the pain points that you may be talking about. So if it's big family stays, you always talk about all the things to do for the grandparents, easy accessibility, easy to get through, but also fun activities for the kids. You want to make sure that that thread is following through with even the influencers that you're working with, what they talk about in their reels, what you talk about on your own posts, what you have on your webpage, on your homepage, and even any additional landing pages that you decide to create in there. You want to have that consistency through. Again, the color palette and some of those things, they matter less. It's more about what are you trying to solve for them? Who are you going after? And are you hitting that touch point where they feel like, okay, this is a stay, they get me, this is actually specifically made for me? That's when they feel like, oh, I'm not going to go on an OTA and book, because I know that this property manager really has tailored this property specifically for my needs.
The guest feels seen. Absolutely. Okay, then, Gil, tip number 4.
Tip number 4 is E for ease. This one is something that we had to kind of learn along the way. Me coming from e-commerce, in e-commerce, you optimize every step of the funnel. You want to make sure that when someone is on the top of the funnel, you have a very well-oiled funnel all the way through. So someone's going on your homepage, you want to make sure that it's very easy for them to book. And this is one of those reasons why we don't use widgets. If you're on the homepage and you're searching for a property, you put in 2 dates in there and the number of people that are staying with you. You want to make sure that on the next page, you're showing the relevant properties, but when they click through to that to actually book on that, to read more about the property, you're keeping those days consistent. And if you're using widgets, you don't really have a lot of those controls. So we do some nifty things where we're keeping the dates that people selected throughout the entire stay so that they're not having to re-input that again. We do things like when we're showing reviews, we're not just showing the reviews in isolation. They can actually click into that review and read more about the specific property there. We have it where on mobile, you have a very different booking experience than what you may have on desktop. And even things like we find out that some of the older folks, myself included, I'll call myself old, we tend to book on desktop. So on the mobile side of things, we make it very easy for them to share that listing page with themselves or with others. So there's a share capability as well too. So nonetheless, like you want to think through every step of the funnel as if you're the guest and how to make sure that you're answering all the questions that they have. You make it very easy for them so that they don't have doubts as they're going through that funnel.
Make it seamless, make it easy. I love it. We're on to C then, which is tip number 5.
Yeah, so C is for credibility. You want to make sure that on your site you feel reputable, you feel trusted by the user. There's been many times where I visit a direct booking website and the copyright is dated 2024, 2023. That's telling a user that the site hasn't been updated in a year or 2, or even who knows how many years. So you want to make sure that that footer has the latest updated copyright information or date. You want to make sure that you have your reviews in there. You have your privacy policy in there. You should be having a consent manager. So especially for folks in the EU, you want to make sure that you have a consent manager that asks people, do they opt into cookies and any tracking that you might have on there. For Google Analytics, that's actually even required as well too. So those are some of the signals that you want. Some folks will even add their host image and their host bio. I highly recommend that. If you're an operator that doesn't have hundreds of properties, that's okay. And it's good for you to be able to showcase yourself as part of that. People end up like to know that they're renting or they're staying specifically with this host there. So we actually put that as part of the onboarding process where you get to upload a picture of yourself, you talk about yourself, and we will actually include that as one of the template options or the sections inside your website.
Yeah, 100%. I've seen a lot of people talk about this online. Make sure in your about page you're displaying yourself, putting your photo of yourself, you and your wife or whoever's running the listings with you. It's funny, actually, I saw a LinkedIn post from a guy as well saying on all his about pages for his different properties, he always puts a female because he says that people prefer to book with females. And what do you make of that? It was a very mixed response to that, by the way.
I hate to admit it, but I think that is actually pretty true. I still have myself as like the main point of contact on our listings. But I know many hosts that have put a female or the wife is the primary contact on the listing. And they have found that guests actually are warmer when they reach out, a little bit less direct, if anything. So I have seen that anecdotally. I don't have enough like hard data. I'm not running data. I'm not running experiments on it. But I've had a lot of folks that choose to put the wife in the family or the mom in the family as the host, and they seem to have more positive communications, at least in the very beginning.
Yeah, I can see why. I get it. I get it. I think as well, if you are running like a family operation as well, a family business, it's nice to show that, and I think other people appreciate that. I mean, even bigger businesses that I see online, and I want to find out more about them. When I go to the about page, I want to see photos of the people who are involved in it. So it doesn't just apply to short term
Yeah,
rentals.
I mean,
Okay,
for,
go on. Sorry.
yeah, for us, like we have our entire family as like the host image there. So it's the my wife and I and our two kids, and that's the host image. But the name of it is myself.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay, then. So we're on to number 6, which is T.
Yeah, T is for tracking. This is something that is missed all too often. And anyone that has been in marketing for even just a little bit of time, the better that you know about the performance of your campaigns and how you're sending traffic to your website, the better that you can optimize things. If you know that a certain influencer is one driving the traffic, you can figure out why is that influencer doing better than others, or maybe to double down and do more with that influencer. If you know that your email campaigns are more effective than running socials, maybe you double down on your newsletter rather than post, because we only have a finite amount of time, energy, resources, money to spend on marketing. So if you have a better idea of what activities are driving the most amount of direct bookings, the better that you're able to run that business there. For us at Craft Stays, we go a bit deeper. We do e-commerce tracking. Since I had come from e-commerce, this is pretty standard practice where you're not just understanding analytics at the website level, but a per property level. So any Craft Estates users, if they're adding the Google Analytics code, they get to see if an influencer is driving traffic for a specific property, even, and understand the conversion flow for that specific property. So we go pretty deep in those things. But even if you're hosting the website yourself, you're doing it elsewhere, no matter what, go ahead and spend maybe the 30 minutes to set up a Google Analytics account, add your tracking code to it. Even if you don't understand the dashboard, if you spend the time to input that Google Analytics code, and later on, if you hire someone, Google has already been mining that data for you since the beginning there. And then you have historicals that you can slice and dice and figure out. But if you never put that tracking code in there, you can't go back and ask Google for information about data that doesn't know yet. So just make sure that you're spending the time on first installing the tracking code, and then two, really trying to understand how to read the data, what data is important for you to look at, and really how to use that data to tune your marketing engine.
So we've got discoverability, integration, relatability, ease, credibility, and tracking. To people out there, the hosts and property managers who have a direct booking site right now, what's the single most effective thing they can do to get more conversions?
The biggest thing that I would advise folks to do is to invest into their email marketing. So if you're working on social media, if you have a direct booking website, if you are maybe just collecting emails from folks that have visited your property, make sure that you have your email marketing funnel well oiled. Make sure that you have, if you have your website, that you have your pop-ups to really capture emails if someone visits your page, because we find that 95% of people that visit your direct booking website or even any website will not convert on their first visit. So if 95% of people aren't converting, you need to make sure that you're bringing them back. If you don't collect their emails, if you don't pixel track them, there's no way for you to reach back out to them. So you're hoping that they'll remember you to come back to you. Whereas if you're collecting their emails, if you're able to pixel them, you can then retarget them through ads, or send them emails. The nice thing about emails is if you collect their emails, you can also run targeted ads against that email as well too. There's also unique things like creating lookalike audiences based on your emails, but we won't get into that. But nonetheless, if you have a good email list and you're actually email and segmenting your list, that can go extremely far.
Fantastic tip. Okay, then, Gil, give us the lowdown on Crafted Stays and where people can go to find out more information.
Yeah. Crafted Stays is a direct booking platform that allows hosts to build high performing websites all without having to hire a digital agency or someone to kind of build out your website. So you can connect your PMS, you can choose from a variety of different templates, and have one of the highest performing direct booking websites by the middle of the afternoon. We've seen folks that achieve a 75% lift in conversion from moving one website platform over to us. So it converts extremely high. We've kind of walked through some of the reasons why, but we spend a lot of time in making sure that we're tuning our platform for conversion. We also work with larger hosts. We originally started off by helping folks like myself that have smaller portfolios, but because we're so focused on conversion, a lot bigger property managers are coming to us. So we now also create custom sites for folks that have larger portfolios too. So if you have a larger portfolio and you really want to make sure that your marketing spend is used most effectively, feel free to reach out to us. You can visit us at craftedstays.co.
Superb. Check it out, and we'll put all those details in the show notes. Gil, it's been a real pleasure. Thanks for sharing those tips and for joining us on Host Planet Bitesize.
Yeah, it was great being here.
All right, that's it for today's episode. My thanks to Gil for joining us and sharing those essential direct booking website tips. Remember, this podcast is brought to you in collaboration with Hostfully, which is trusted by short-term rental professionals across the globe. As a Host Planet listener, you get 2 exclusive offers. $500 off onboarding for Hostfully's property management software. Just use the code PLANET500 and 30% off digital guidebooks for life. Use the code HostPlanetGB to grab these deals. Click the link in the show notes or head to hostfully.com. For more free education, tips and trends from the STR industry, visit hostplanet.club, where you can sign up for our newsletter, listen to our podcasts, and download a suite of ebooks for hosts and property managers. That's it for today's episode. Until next time, happy hosting.